Well, hello, I would like to welcome everybody to the November 17th, 2025 work session. We've got a special agenda today. We are going to start off with an employee letter that was signed by many of our employees. A copy of it was in your packet on the top. I think you'll agree with me. Very well worded letter. Chief also forwarded one from one of his officers. And I don't think there's one of us that disagree with any of the sentiment. I will just say before I turn it over to Andy, you know, there was a difficult job to do, and if this was a company, we would have talked about this behind closed doors and probably not riled up employees with the possibility of any type of a cut or anything like that. But we don't have that as a city. We have to talk about this above board. And Andy had a job to do, whether he liked it or not, put us on notice that while we're flush with cash in many of our accounts, we don't have the ability just to reach in and take money from streets or several other accounts that are sequestered. So the general fund is where we're having trouble. And I'm sure that we've made some very meaningful improvements, meaning no cuts to the employees' budget and an inflationary raise, which probably is what most of us expected in the beginning of this process. But one thing Andy's going to cover, and I think it may be a help for department heads, council, and Janine specifically, made this recommendation, which was an excellent, it was an excellent request. And that was to go over these funds and why we can't just reach in. We got an extra million here or half a mil there. Why we can't reach in and just take the money and spend it the way we want.
Do you want to say something?
Sure.
Okay, so 6 months ago, we had the budget presented to us and we didn't have any inkling that there was going to be any shortcomings coming in. And then 3 months ago, we had the budget again presented to us, again without any shortcomings. And then suddenly we had all these shortcomings. Nothing really had changed dramatically in those 6 months. So my concern is that either one, we're not getting the budget presented to us with full disclosure of what we're going to look like in the general fund. Or, or something has been proposed that I don't know really the reason why it would be proposed. Because honestly, on the table for me is that I never want to see ever, while I'm on council, that employee benefits come up for negotiation to offset a deficit that we, the council, have created. So that's just my personal opinion about how we got here. And it's not just making people in the office feel uncomfortable. We're literally talking about their livelihoods. We are talking about their everyday going to work, feeling like underappreciated, the morale is down, I'm gonna look for a job. I mean, this is in their brain when they go home. So it was bigger than just saying, hey, let's tweak the books and take a few things away. It is literally the morale of the city and the city staff.
Well, it still is, because
Absolutely.
as council, we have to find a way to fix this. Or frankly, if we run into deficits like this in the future, we would be looking at something a lot tougher and it would be up to us to handle it, whether we like it or not. We have to live within the budget.
You know, just in the I've been on council almost 5 years, and we've never had this challenge where we look at the general fund and we see these deficits. So to me, that suggests that we have been either very laissez-faire about how we're spending our general fund, or perhaps we need to scale back on some of our general fund stuff. Because to me, the most important thing is our employees. If our employees go down in all the morale and the willingness, you know, like if we go from yay to I'd rather die, that is not going to help us at all. It's just going to continue to spiral. And the fact that we have a letter signed by everybody, almost everybody in water, wastewater, and public works is really alarming to me. Like if we don't do this, I know the rumors that I've heard is that we're losing people.
Well, I don't doubt some will leave. And I think in 2026, a lot of what ails us is cured. Because
How so?
of many, well, this is a pretty easy one. The Argo is projecting $469,000 in sales tax just on the city's end. Not counting what they are raising for the state and for the county. That's a biggie. I think that we're looking at significantly more parking spaces. That is another biggie, because whether we like it or not, people are gonna continue to come. Whether we have parking or not, they're gonna pollute, go around the laps 2-3 times, maybe get frustrated and take the money and go somewhere else. Additional parking spaces, it's bringing us about $4,050 a space on sales tax, and that's just the city's end. So that's another big improvement.
Are we overestimating that though? Because some of the things that I saw where we estimated, we did a budget for 2025 and then we blew the budget. If you look at some of our categories, our expenditures were much higher than what we guesstimated. So I don't wanna and like the severance,
I'd rather be conservative in my numbers when
yeah,
it
the
comes to how
severance
high the
numbers,
budget.
that was like over a 50% difference. Like that was, and I don't know what happened there when we talked about.
Well, I will turn it over to Andy, but one thing that is a common theme here are that expenses for all cities are wildly high. I mean, I don't care what we're talking, we could be talking about chemicals for the wastewater plant and stuff is just
Oh my
absolutely
God, the
sky high.
wastewater plant
But-
is just.
But just going back before Andy jumps in, so going back, I think it's on page 8, there's a cautionary note that rather than fill 2 positions that are going to be open by the end of the year, that we don't hire. On the idea that we're actually going to have more visitors in town.
Yeah.
That is the most absurd proposal I've ever heard of in my entire life.
Yeah, I would 100% agree, but
So, I mean.
we
but-
have to live within what the general
Well,
fund.
then Chuck, why weren't we aware of this 6 months ago? I mean, here, I was confounded by this when this came out, when we first talked about removing benefits. I was like, how did we get here? I never heard, like, was I deaf? I never heard one time when someone said, hey, if we buy this piece of property, we're gonna have,
Oh, that isn't what hurt us in the general fund.
well, what hurt us in the general fund?
Andy, this is gonna be a long answer. Go ahead,
So the general fund is mostly personnel. So they are operating costs, not projects. Projects come out of different funds. So what's driving the general fund is mostly personnel related. That's what makes it so hard, is we don't have a lot of flexibility. If we have a downturn or a
But
slowdown.
why is that, Andy? Why can we have this stupid conversation about building the train depot and remodeling City Hall at the same time that we're talking about getting rid of a police officer? If that's something within the way we've created our budget, then we have made a stupid error. Like, then that doesn't make sense that we're gonna get rid of people that work and basically support the revenue-driven businesses in our town. And we're going to be building, and we're gonna put new carpet in City Hall. Fiscally, that doesn't make any sense to me.
So we have a 5% sales tax that comes to the city. Out of that 5%, 2% goes to the general fund, and that's mostly personnel. It also supports our business and community promotion contribution. It also supports our contribution to the fire services. So as I say, it's mostly personnel. There are a couple other items in there, but they're not capital items. They're not projects. Those come out of the other funds, which is the improvement fund, which is another 1%. Another 1% of our sales tax goes to the improvement fund. And that's funding projects such as the police station.
And Andy,
Remodel.
please explain, why can't we dip into that for other things? I know the answer, but I would just like for you to say, why can't we use that as?
Well, I mean, it's for projects. That's the voters approved that many years ago for capital projects such as the public works buildings, such as improvements to Shelley Quinn Park, as an example. And those are one-time expenses. You know, we can decide not to move forward with a project if we don't have the funding. We can't do that with personnel. I mean, personnel is an ongoing expense. So if we have slower than expected revenue that we did this year with sales tax and some unexpected expenses like with insurance that are extraordinary, then that puts us in a squeeze with our general fund. So let me just finish with the taxes. So 5% sales tax, 2% of that sales tax goes to support the general fund. That's where most of our personnel costs come from. That's where all of our that's where our police department expenses are. And the police department is the majority of our general fund expenses and so that's a big pressure on the general fund as well. 1% goes to the improvement fund, 1% goes to the street fund, and the street fund goes towards street projects, makes sense, but also to pay back the bonds. And part of the reason council back in 2018 went with bonding through the street fund is to try to get some of these projects knocked out. But now we're committed to paying back those bonds out of the 1% street fund. So a lot of the sales tax that goes, revenues that go into the 1% street fund goes towards paying back the bonds. We still have funding, like we have a certain amount of funding that we use each year to do various street projects. And then the other 1%, out of that 5% sales tax goes towards the water enterprise. And that's where we fund our projects for water and sewer projects, whether it's upgrading the sewer plant, whether it's the water plant, whether it's our collection and distribution lines. So a lot of, like, for instance, Virginia Canyon and Virginia Street, most of the funding there came from the water enterprise. So that's, and then we do have some, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, and Mayor, I'll take your lead. I don't know if you want me to go through my memo first and then get into the cost allocations. I can go right to the cost allocations.
Oh, I think since we're on this side of the topic, probably cost allocations, it makes sense.
All right. So let me get to that because I think that's important to understand. We do allocate costs, and it is acceptable from an accounting standpoint to allocate costs among funds. So it's not like the general fund has all of the personnel costs, but there has to be a reason to allocate the cost to another fund, such as part of an employee's time is spent on capital projects, which of course it is. So we have some employees who are totally dedicated and are totally funded out of the water enterprise, which includes water and sewer. And those are the employees that operate our water and sewer facilities. Then we have some public works employees who are assigned to streets, which is the general fund. But then part of their time is part of the cost of their position is allocated to the water enterprise because they're dealing with water main breaks like we just had recently up on Highway 103. They're dealing with meters, they're dealing with things that are related to our utilities. And our water enterprise is a huge part of what we do as a city. Operating a water treatment facility and a wastewater treatment facility are a big part of our budget. So we do allocate costs, and I'll show it to you here in a moment. We do allocate costs, and we look at this each year as we budget, and there's no exact science about this. It's something that we talk with our financial consultant about, make sure our auditor's okay with it as far as allocating costs from the general fund to other funds. So we do try to relieve some of the pressure on the general fund where it makes sense. So let me go ahead and pass this out. I think it'll be easier to follow.
Let's go back. Sure.
All right. Okay, so what you have before you, and this may look a little familiar because what I did is just build on the table of contents, if you will, the listing of budget accounts as they appear in the budget. So this reflects the codes that we have, the budget codes that we have in our budget and the various departments and then the various funds. So starting on page 1, you'll see that we have in streets is our public works director. And the cost of his position is split. And this is, the cost of his position is split between the general fund, which is streets. All the 10s are general fund. The numbers to start with, or the counts to start with 10. So public works director, since a lot of his work is water and sewer, as well as streets and parks. So you have 50% of that cost of that position is assigned to the water enterprise. And then going down below that, you have the other employees who are assigned to streets. And it shows you what their assignment is as far as cost. So we have 1 maintenance worker, 3 that's assigned 100% to streets. In other words, most of his work is assigned to streets. That position, just incidentally, will become vacant. This is one of the positions that we were suggesting we may hold off filling until we see how the revenues come in the new year. But that person, that employee is retiring as of December 28th. And then we have other maintenance workers that one's at 50%, maintenance worker 2. We have 1 maintenance worker 1 who is 100% assigned to the water enterprise under distribution and collections, as you can see. Because virtually all of his time is assigned to those functions. And then we have 2 maintenance workers at 50%. So half of their cost is assigned to the general fund and half is assigned to the water enterprise. In administration, the city administrator, my position is split between general fund and water and sewer, water enterprise. Assistant city administrator, half the position is assigned to general fund. And as you'll see later, 20% is assigned to the parking enterprise fund, and then 30% is assigned to water and sewer. Community development planner, 100% to the general fund. Deputy city clerk, 100% to the general fund. Deputy treasurer, court clerk, 25% to administration general fund, and as you'll see in a little bit, 25% to court in the general fund, and then the other and the remainder to the water enterprise. And then our administrative clerk, 50% to general fund and administration, and then the other 50% of the cost to water enterprise. Community promotion, business and community promotion director is a contract position, and that's 100% to general fund. Then we have police, and all of the employees in police, it's our largest department, and also where the majority of our budget goes, is assigned to the general fund. Now, for 2026, and we are assigning 20% of the chief's position, cost of his position, to getting to oversight of the police station remodel project. But that'll only be for 2026 because that's not an ongoing, that project will finish up in 2026. But that is a cost allocation that is justifiable. That just shows you how this can be dynamic, and you have to look at it periodically and see what makes sense as far as cost allocations. On the next page, as I mentioned earlier, deputy treasurer court clerk, 25% in court. So essentially the deputy treasurer court clerk is 50% assigned to general fund between administration and court, and then 50% to the water enterprise. In parks, we have 2 employees, a maintenance work, and both of these are 100% assigned to parks. Now, I'll just give you an example. And this is something that can be discussed and considered, and I certainly hear the concerns about not filling positions, but we could take another look at these two positions and whether part of the cost of these two positions should be assigned to the water enterprise. And the reason I say that is when we have a water main break, it's all hands on deck. And particularly when we have our main line on 103, which is broken several times in recent years, twice in just the last few months in different places. It's a huge task, and everyone is needed to get the repair made. So, in my opinion, we could take, if we haven't done it before, doesn't mean we can't do it now. We could look at maybe 10% of those positions, maybe 20 being assigned to the water enterprise. And I just want to give you an example of things that can be done with the budget to allocate costs and to achieve the goals of the council.
I'm gonna
And
say I agree with this only because if I'm counting, there's only 8 employees without our employee who is retiring at the end of the year, and that includes the director. So if we have a water main break, that's 8 employees. That's it. Like, you're not staying home. You're out you go.
well, and that's another position, at the beginning of my comments here. The maintenance worker 3 on the first page there, it's 100% to general fund. That's just the way it's always been done. But again, I think part of that position could be assigned to water enterprise.
I think given the way that our structure is set up and our lack of a really heavy depth of specialized department employees, everybody should be in the water fund because if, like I said, if it breaks, it's everybody. You don't get to stay home. You're out.
And then let's see, so moving on page 2, we have our special revenue funds. Those are capital funds. Sales tax improvement fund, as I mentioned, police chief at 20% for 2026 only for the police station project. So 20% of his the cost of the police chief could be assigned to that fund. Or is assigned, excuse me. And then we have the enterprise fund, which is we have more than one enterprise fund, but we have the water fund, which is the big fund. And then you'll see we have the water fund and then the wastewater fund. It's all under the water enterprise. That can be a little confusing, but we have one enterprise fund. And then for budgeting purposes, we divide it between the water fund and the wastewater fund. So you'll see that the water fund and the wastewater fund mirror each other. So everything you see here will be very similar to what you see on the next page with the wastewater fund. But just to go through it on the water fund side, Public Works Director cost on the operations is assigned at 25%, City Administrator 25%, Assistant City Administrator 15%. And this reflects the time and effort that we spend on building operations, upgrading meters, managing projects involving our water and sewer facilities, those sorts of things. Water facilities operator water facilities operator 3, who's now the acting lead operator, 100%. We have 3 employees that are assigned full-time to our water and sewer plants. So and they're shown here, water facilities operator 3, who's the acting lead operator, 100%, water facilities operator 2 at 100%, water facilities operator 1 at 100%. And then the deputy treasurer court clerk, 12.5%, and an administrative clerk at 25%. And again, this mirrors what we have on the wastewater side. For distribution, water distribution, we have, and again, this ties back to the street department, or in the general fund, we have a maintenance worker 2 at 25%, maintenance worker 1 at 50%, and 2 maintenance worker 1 at 25%. So again, I just wanted to give you an idea of how costs are allocated in the current proposed budget, but also let you know that within reason, there can be some adjustments made, and it's not an exact science. The last thing I want to mention is, and I mentioned it earlier, but just to close the loop, Parking Enterprise Fund on the end of page 3. Assistant City Administrator, 20% of his cost of that position is assigned to the Parking Enterprise Fund. I hope that's helpful. And thanks for the
Thank you.
suggestion. So I think what I'm hearing is one of the biggest concerns expressed here is, we've made a lot of headway with this updated proposed budget. Maintaining employee benefits at current levels, at least covering the current cost of living based on the CPI, which is 2.1% over the past year. It's not where we want to be. This board has said repeatedly, and it is a goal to get closer to the market. And we know we're not there yet. But we also know that there's some projected revenues coming up that look pretty promising. But they're not all going to come right away in the new year. We've got the gondola opening April 1st. We've got some new parking spaces. We've got the 119 apartments that'll start being occupied probably in January or February. And they're going to phase those in. I think one building's opening to residents in January, and then the other 2 buildings not until March, I believe it is. So that's going to take a little time. So some of these revenues are going to take time to kick in, and that was the reason for slow rolling some of the hiring here. But I want to mention to you that for the 2 positions that we're talking about, not filling right away, I think we can find a way to fill them if that's council's desire. And the reason I say that is the first position, which is based on the retirement, the maintenance worker 3 at 100% assigned to general fund. I think it would be reasonable to assign part of that position to the water enterprise for the reasons I mentioned earlier. Right now it's 100%. Could we make that 70% or something like that? On the police side, it's a little more challenging because it's harder to find a connection to the water enterprise or another fund for the work that the police do. We've certainly found a connection with for our police chief, who's taken the lead on the police remodel to assign part of the cost of his position in 26. But I might also mention it's going to take some time to fill that position anyhow, that vacancy anyhow. It takes probably several months at a minimum to post the position, to screen candidates, to run them through a very extensive background, and then get them on the job. So even if the hiring, and Chief, tell me if I'm wrong, but even if we started the hiring process today, based on the resignation that we just received today officially, it's going to take at least several months to get that position filled. All right? Okay. And then there's the challenge of, is that going to be a post-certified person or not? And again, credit to the board and to Chief for suggesting this a few years ago. We now are in a position that if it's the right candidate, but not post-certified candidate, we have the ability to send that person to post-academy. So you want to get the right candidate. The downside is that will take quite a few more months to get that person on the street. And then, of course, there's the field training program. If we are fortunate to get the right candidate that is post-certified, maybe that person might be on the job as early as March, but then you're going to have a field training program, which will probably last a couple months. Yes. Okay. So what I'm trying to do is just give you a little context and let you know that this is a updated proposed budget. We still have some flexibility to make some changes based on council's direction, but we also have some limitations. We do have to pay attention to the fund balance in the general fund. And that is because we have recurring, ongoing operating costs in the general fund mostly. We just don't have a lot of flexibility to say we just won't do this project, and that'll help. We've got to make sure we either allocate costs or find more revenues. We think we've identified more clearly some additional revenues that we can reasonably expect next year at some point. And then also, there are some ways that we could allocate some additional costs to a certain extent.
Okay, so you said in the revenue, selling the, former public works facility. My question to that, is there anything that we need that for? Wish Ed was here to answer, if he had ideas.
The former,
The former public works facility at the west end of town.
And that may take a vote of the people,
yeah,
so that may not be any relief, short term.
Well, no, actually, I'm asking because I'm always hesitant to just fire sale,
yeah.
just because we find ourselves in a bad position, like, I don't wanna take drastic steps, so I'm asking.
And again, that would, the proceeds from the sale of that property would go in the improvement fund. Because that's where all of our, buildings and, we get that's where we purchase our vehicles, our capital equipment, construct our buildings.
So it's
all
not
that
going in the general fund. then?
It's not going to the general fund, thank you, yes, that's exactly right. So we go back into the improvement fund, so would that help the improvement fund? Absolutely, we could put that back into another project perhaps. There has been, just to give you a little more context again on that, there's been some thought about whether that might be appropriate for affordable housing. Maybe that might be appropriate, for some the right type of affordable housing project. Part of that property, as I think most of you know, has the big 5 line running under it. So you couldn't build on top of that on the east side of that property.
Which is
So
curious, because we seem to be able to stack hundreds of thousands of tons of recycled asphalt over there.
that's a good point, Mayor.
Anyway,
That'll take some work.
Sorry, and Andy, if you would.
Yeah.
One thing that can really help the general fund is increase in sales tax, because
Right.
40%
Yes.
of those funds that come in the form of sales tax are for the general fund. That's the big help. And why we can't raid reserves, and we've been dipping into those reserves. We can't just do it perpetually because we are on the Standard & Poor's, they call it surveillance. So we got on the radar. And what happens if you abuse your funds and dip too far into the reserves, like if we do this for a couple more years, we were able to hold our A- rating, which is what we would have hoped, but you drop. And I was just talking to Jeremy before the meeting started. We had a mayor that decided that we would go 5 years and not raise water rates. And that created a real problem for us.
More than one mayor, by the way.
Okay, all right. And
All of them.
so what I'm saying is you could go ahead and dip into the reserves. And what it would do is it would screw future councils to be able, you'd be able to bond. If we needed some other type of water plant improvement or something. But now you're stuck at a high rate because you blew it. You're considered higher risk. So right now, we were able to maintain it. But we also pointed out, we have some very promising things coming on in 2026. I really and truly think are gonna solve the bulk of these issues. Please
When
continue.
you say like they're supposed to remain on bill to actual revenues become apparent in 2026, like if you weren't gonna fill the position, I know you say the revenues can come at different times, like how does that even, like how often are you being like, are we ready? Like how does that look if you did something?
I think after a few months, we're gonna have a pretty good idea how revenues are
A
coming
few months
in.
into 2026.
I think so.
Well, and I don't think we'll have so many surprises like what our CIRSA at the police went from $79,000 just a few years ago to, what is it?
Over 300.
Over 300,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's over 300.
I mean, who would have thought it would quadruple?
We're not
In
the only
3 years.
municipality seeing that.
I'm sorry?
We're not, I'm sorry to interrupt, we're not the only municipality seeing that.
Oh, yeah.
That is
yeah.
across the board for
It's-
every
it's-
Sears,
It's an insurance pool, so we share the risk and most municipalities are a part of a pool.
Are we, have we, two things, have we investigated, are we with the county on our insurance, or are we just by our own selves down here? When it comes to shopping for insurance plans?
We're in an insurance pool, which is comprised of most
Just for Citizens?
municipalities.
And
It's
there's
through
really,
CIRSA.
there's not a lot of options.
And there's really not a lot of options. And in fact, I'm part of a city manager's, listserv, pool, so these things, get discussed among the managers and, the experience that a number of jurisdictions have had when they've switched, they come back to CIRSA. Because what you really, when you know, we've had some claims, some serious claims, and CIRSA has done an excellent job defending us. And all it cost us was our deductible,
Okay.
which is anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000. Now, we've raised our deductibles a little bit, so we've tried to here and there do what we can to manage the cost of the premium increases. But that only goes so far. So as we all know, what you really need insurance for is those big claims.
Right.
That's when you really need the help. I mean, it's nice to have it for when you need some body damage on a patrol car and that's $8,000. It's nice that doesn't have to come out of the general fund. That can come out of most of that can be paid by insurance.
Granby just came back a year ago, back to CIRSA. They've been away from CIRSA forever, came back and we're like, oh, wow. That's gonna save a ton of money.
So I know this is gonna be extremely unpopular, so I might as well throw it out there, get it done. Long ago, before Sadie had basically done a fantastic job of becoming our marketing person. Of course, we had John Kane before that, sort of doing the groundwork, I should say, because we should give John, a lot of credit for being the guy that was working with what was then a Chamber of Commerce, which for many generations and decades throughout the country, Chamber of Commerce were basically known as the marketing department for little towns. And so we no longer have a Chamber of Commerce that's operating that same way. Are we correct?
Correct.
So basically what's happened now is we've taken you guys know I support the businesses 100%, but what I am gonna say is that now the city of Idaho Springs has taken over the cost of the marketing exclusively. So we are the ones funding that, and I believe that is in the same column as employee
That's
salaries.
general fund.
This is the general fund.
So my point is, you can see, that is where we have become a little bit more entangled than we can afford. And I was wondering if there is a plan to look at a way to subsidize the marketing fund and the marketing salaries, without it all being the responsibility of just the city of Idaho Springs.
May I come sit at the table now?
Oh, sure.
Right, is that okay?
Yeah.
So there's just a couple of things I appreciate. So we've obviously all been talking about this. I've talked to each one of you on several individual bases. We talked today at our business and community promotion board meeting. I spend a significant amount of my time working on parking and parking management and dealing with parking and dealing with how to solve the parking problem, how to communicate about parking in our community. Marketing is not just attracting visitors to
Right.
Idaho Springs. Marketing is communicating to the people that live here and the people that are visiting. It's not about attracting more, it's about helping people understand how to be here. So a lot of that communication, day-to-day meetings, also deals with solving our parking problem. So number one thing to consider there, that I spend a pretty significant amount of my time.
Am I hearing you correctly when you're thinking that some of your salary should be coming from the parking fund?
It could
100%
potentially
agreed.
be, if council could think about how that might work. There is a way to look at that, in that how much time I spend dealing with solving for a parking problem that we have within the district.
Can I raise a question really quick?
Sure.
Chief, does the police department also
Yes, that's right.
deal any of their time with the parking issues?
We do, I mean, obviously, our code enforcement officer does quite a bit of that. And then I would say our daytime officers are also there. They'll issue parking citations as well.
I mean, in my mind, now that Sadie's brought this up, which I think is brilliant, I mean, Wonder deals with this. The front office administrative staff is dealing with this. So, I mean, parking is literally something that is shared by every single department. So is that something that we can look at to like kind of disperse? I know that makes us less revenue towards parking projects.
But
No,
it's valid, yeah, I 100%
And,
agree.
and if council's direction has been that we're not going to the place where we need to be bonding for a parking structure right away, where we're preparing ourselves to build one in the future potentially, if we don't need to protect that dollar revenue source as much as we have been in the past, there's flexibility in that area. Second thing that I want to bring up for business and community promotions specifically is that it's also important to realize that we currently wonder, how much is our business license application right now?
$75.
We're charging $75 for a business license application.
Sorry.
Now, this is a council decision on how much you charge for a business license. I have opened businesses in other municipalities. $75 is pennies.
What is your experience? What is the cost in your experience?
I mean, you range from $200 to thousands of dollars for a business license application, dependent on the municipality.
When's the last time we changed it, Wonder?
Not since I've been here, however, the state has regulations on how much you can charge
much you
and
can charge.
if you can charge.
Really? Okay.
And it also depends on allocations of, you can also, instead of charging a business license fee, council could adopt a business license fee and a marketing initiative fee, or there are also additional ways to say, I want to, similar to a chamber of commerce, there are many municipalities across the state of Colorado, when you have a visit, which the Business and Community Promotion Board is essentially your Visit Idaho Springs arm, you know, we're the destination management piece of your bucket. There are ways to say, hey, businesses, we're doing the legwork for you because we needed a way to be consistent, and the city was already funding the chamber for many years prior to when I said, just take it under so that you guys had oversight. There are ways to say, hey, let's do $100 business license application fee and a $50 marketing fee. There are ways of it being done where your business license isn't just one thing or the other.
For me, I mean, honestly, if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna create that idea, Andy, then just put it into one lump sum, because once you start making it itemized and nitpicky, it looks very nitpicky, and I would rather, but I think it's a great idea to see.
I'm just trying to say that there are other ways, and I hear you, Kate, for sure, that the city is taking a risk to say, hey, we're putting this all in general fund, we're making an effort to talk about how we manage visitors. I also want to be very clear that it's not always about attracting more visitors in, it's about really communicating to the folks that are already here. And then big things that I spend a lot of my time talking about is
Mhm.
so.
No, and I appreciate what you're saying, I mean, cause we're in agreement, I want you to understand that. I don't want marketing to go away, but I don't want our current services to dwindle with the increase in people. I mean, whether or not I'm on council or not, I live here. And so for me, this looks, it creates this dangerous dynamic in my mind that I do not think that any resident would feel comfortable with. I'm just coming to you as a resident, which is what I represent. I don't represent a business or anything else. I'm representing my neighborhood, and I think that diminishing our resources, especially, I'm gonna use this term because Doug gave it to me and I really liked it. Revenue supporting services, whether that's police, park, public works, or water. That is essentially what they are here to do for us. I don't wanna see a diminishment, so if you can come up with ways to like share that cost, I'm all for it.
Out of the and take it away from the general
Then
fund.
take it away from the general
The other
fund.
thing that I worry about, you know, we have this person who's retiring and they are a maintenance 3 worker. That is a lot of institutional knowledge. Like, well, okay, don't make faces. Let's just say in general, that's a lot of institutional knowledge. So if we had a sergeant up in league, that's also institutional knowledge, like, or let's, not that I'm picking on you, Wonder, but like if Wonder left, I know Wonder has done a lot of training. She's done a lot of improvement. She's really expanded her knowledge base. We start from like less than ground zero when it comes to putting a new clerk in place. So one of my concerns as far as finding ways to spread out our general fund expenditures into areas like you guys put some of your salaries in water and parking. I think putting other salaries in water and parking and dipping more into parking, because that is one of our, like, if you look online, what do people bitch about? It's parking.
Well, everybody
Parking is
feels it.
It is our number one source of discussion, complaint, anger, frustration, whatever. So everybody has to deal with it because we're not that big of a city. I would like to see that spread out a little more equally and not beat the general fund so hard. I also think that, honestly, I think the police should have some of the parking, because what have we been hearing complaints about from residents? Please deal with 47,000 cars that never move an inch, you know, and whose tires are now part of the asphalt. The cops are dealing with that, so they have to deal with the parking problems. It's not just on the highway or whatever, it's also they're dealing with our problems here within our town. Like, how do we,
I agree.
yeah,
Yeah, and I will say, I know administration feels the same way.
Mm-hmm.
They would like to allocate where it passes the smell test.
yeah, but also I want to touch on something else Sadie said. Right now, the city is owning all of our marketing promotion. If we raise, I've said this for a long time, we should raise $75 is a joke.
It is.
It is a joke, in all caps, but also, what
Why
is,
have we done that? I mean, I wanna question ourselves, like, how
honestly,
stupid are
because
we, but
we
kinda
never
how
have been,
stupid are we?
like, we haven't
But-
been, we haven't been in a budget crunch, so we've been like, okay, no,
Well, I
no
think
worries.
I mean, I remember the day when we were begging people to do businesses here, so I do remember those days. And now we're
I think
like,
that's why we haven't changed.
now that we get like $500, we don't want, you know.
When Georgetown had the businesses and we didn't have a business district,
Yep,
the idea was we don't wanna raise.
we don't wanna be more we don't wanna be
And
competing
I can say
against
this,
those guys.
I don't know if Steve's thought on it, but I'm a business owner too. I pay $75 a year for my business license and I kinda giggle at it.
Oh, that's
Because that is the
ridiculous.
lowest expense I have in my
Yeah,
business.
But can we
I
actually
mean,
raise it?
It's
By
ridiculous.
law?
I would have to look, it's possible, it's like, the state has more regulations on. There's some that you cannot charge anything, like if they don't have a physical presence, and there's lots of little, code caveats.
So I just did a workshop on this and I think the one thing that we can is the majority of our businesses that are our big businesses, we can raise their business license renewal fee.
I think what we should do, and I'll look at you and thank you for bringing this up. This is
Retail
tremendous.
versus
Is we should look at
service.
neighboring communities, find out what they're charging and be equal to those guys, competitive as well. Cause it must be very funny to like, maybe Gilpin, I don't know what they charge, but.
Don't use Gilpin.
Would I be
No,
depressed
because-
if I looked at what Gilpin is like that? I
Don't use Gilpin as a comparison.
Oh, okay, that's her
It's
bad.
got different revenue sources that we don't have, so.
Oh, so that's-
Yeah,
yeah,
they
sure,
have
sure.
gaming. I was like, you don't wanna.
Yeah, well, strip
you
clubs
don't
too. I was
wanna-
very pleased when I drove through that I saw that as well.
Gilpin has very, very different, their revenue is different from almost everywhere else in the
Yeah.
state.
You could look at like a Summit or some of the
Park County, Grant,
Park Summit.
Fair Play.
You could look at a lot of those. I mean, I would specifically look at like Summit and Park, county, city municipalities. Those would be kind of places where I would think we would be like an equal match. And again, 75, well, I understand when we were enticing people into our business district, that was really important. However, like right now, I do feel like it might be an area just to talk about.
Out of curiosity, do you know what Georgetown charges?
I don't.
I think it's $1,000 a door.
For real?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I think it's a door, they call it a door tax.
So I just got my business license today. And on it, there was like something about a fine. It was like, if you go past this, it's like 113. And I started reading it and I was like, oh, it's up to 113. You know, like I thought it was like, it's increased.
Yeah, if you don't pay it on
That
time,
makes
it goes up.
It doubles, or yeah, it goes up by 50% and then 20% every month after.
So I think it definitely makes sense to raise it, right?
Yeah.
But I also spent over $1,000 in water today too. And yes, I was late, so I had a $50 fee. And then I pay, like, when I bring people up and they look at me like, what? It's like for a $4 thing, it costs them $6.50. So like, just knowing where to like tap those things. Because like, yes, I'm happy to pay more for a business license. Yes, if everyone did it, we'd make more money. But like, to me as a business owner, sales tax is capped.
Yeah.
It's so, it's 10.5%. And then I paid 3.5 to just do a transaction. So just like, I guess, yes, more is good, but like those little tweaks on someone my size, like just keeping that in mind too.
I don't think we're looking at any more sales tax, because I do think we're at.
No, we're not even talking.
We're not even talking about it, like, sales tax is not on the
Peg
table
the
for
fund
us.
meter on sales tax. I
What?
think we peg the fund meter on sales.
I
tax.
think, well, we're only
I think
second
we
to
exceeded
Aspen, I
it
think
by
we
4
we
different
should,
times, so I
this
think
was
we're
noted,
beyond that.
we went down to Denver and we were looking, the big red library truck is dead. And we were looking at cars and I was like, that's quite a sum. Like, I had no idea, cause I don't spend that much money all at one time, and I was like, all right, well, that's why you don't see a lot of fancy new cars drive around out of its strengths.
And Andy, I'm sorry, you were, about, 2/3 of the way through, I
Well,
think.
kind of forgot where I left off, with what Sadie said is exactly in line with what I was mentioning about our full-time employees, is about allocating costs. I think that makes sense. I know that Sadie deals a lot with parking. And so part of her position, even though it's a contract position, but part of the cost of that effort, I think can reasonably, I'm comfortable saying could reasonably be assigned to the parking enterprise. I also think we should consider some type of fee as well. I think that again is reasonable, so you're looking not only just allocating your expenses with your costs, but also looking at some reasonable revenue sources, additional revenue sources, other than just sales tax, other than just some of the traditional ones. And I think having some sort of fee along with the business license for marketing, I think makes sense, and there's clearly a connection with businesses and the marketing that's done. So I think that's something we can consider. Of course, it's pretty late in the year to be considering that for the new year, so I will caution you on that, because businesses just like the city are trying to plan for the new year, and to put on a new fee kind of this late in the game might be a little challenging, but I think it's something to consider going forward.
I think though that even if our combined costs, and I'm saying this as a business owner, I'm not saying this, like, I've been a business owner for 20 years, so I always, and I think even if you went up to 250, like, that's still one of the cheaper costs that I have, and I'm a sole proprietor, like, I'm not even anybody big, and 250 would have been fantastic.
But to Tara's note, and Tara, you actually do help a lot, so does Steve.
They're both on my board.
Right, so I would say that if you decide to spend time being a part of the marketing plan, that could be in lieu of a charge, a marketing charge.
I would
Happy to
fully
pay.
support that as team of one
But
over
what I'm
here.
saying is if we raise it's really, let's just face it, what it is, it's a higher business license rate. But we're just calling it something else, if that's the way, if Andy wants to go down that road. But I'm gonna say, like, to make it more alluring for Sadie to get more people involved, maybe they get a break that year that they serve. Sadie is the one that monitors, like, you have to serve this many hours, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I'm okay with blood equity, sweat equity.
I will say that I just did the quick math, so we're talking about where we have deficit or whatever. If we were to raise the business license to $150, and on the average amount of people that I think we could charge that to, that potentially would be around $60,000.
That's one police officer. right
So I
there.
mean, give or take, whether, Wonder and I would have to be nitty gritty on who's where and who's what, but that was a general.
I think there would have to be something written
That
in, who's
is the
doing
Fourth
who's
of
what,
July.
some kind of formula, so it's not pick and choose.
Oh.
Right, no, it would be like,
Talking about promotion.
no, it would
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
demonization, physical location versus
And then we
not.
have to update the fee schedule
July.
by resolution.
We can actually look at it, why don't you make it
Oh,
cover
yeah.
anything that the
Yeah,
city
start that in
creates as an
October,
event?
so.
Okay.
No,
it's totally
That's what I'm saying,
The
make it
business
cover all the
licenses have
events.
already gone out?
October first.
October, yeah.
People are already renewing, so the changes might be a little
Right.
tricky.
But I mean, that's a good idea.
Kate, I was wrong, it's not 1,000, it used to be 1,000 at a door tax fee,
Over there,
yeah, it's now 180.
well, they need
But
it
they
to be
don't,
180, and it should be 75.
I just want to know.
But Georgetown's in a position right now where they need to lower their costs. They can open a business because they don't have any business.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So that's where that caution kill comes in, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what all of you heard though, what Jeremy
Well,
said,
we're just talking about, I'll reiterate,
thank you.
is if we double the cost of a business license, and you said it makes about 60,000, legitimately, that covers the special events like 4th of July. So if you did it right, and I'm from not counsel, from the business owner, that makes sense to me, because that would be, I could directly correlate that investment into something that I'm gonna generate revenue off of as a business owner, if I did it right. So that's kind of how I think that offset would be. If you raise it, I think you have to justify the business on where
What
that
you're
money's
getting,
going to, and
yeah.
just saying, well, the general fund, you just go in general fund. Does, I don't think works for me anymore than it does anybody else, but saying, hey, this offsets these expenses.
That are
And
also in our
$4,000,
general fund.
$50,000 investment a year. I think that's an easier pill to swallow, and I could be wrong, because I'm just one business owner in the room, and there's several of us with.
Well, I think what's really important to note, and with Wonder saying, like, while mayor says you can't dip too far into the negative or whatever, so many years in a row. So if council directs me to say, hey, business and community promotion, let's get the buy-in from the business community to raise the business license fee and make that an initiative for next year. So in 2026, we make the plan to Wonder and I can work how that exactly works, what that exactly means, what are the tiers of businesses, what are the categories we're charging them, and we can look at how we can effectively raise that in 26. Then we're not as concerned, because then in 27, we also see that increase, the increases of all the things that mayor has spoken to that are happening in 26. So then by 27, when we're looking at budget numbers, we're looking at a better, sunnier, brighter future. Because we can't make this change for next year, as Wonder has said. However, if council directs me to make that an initiative, I absolutely will do that.
I will say though, one thing that I'm going to ask for is that, because next year is sort of our precarious year. There are things that are going to happen, but they have to happen. They have not happened yet. We're counting a bird in the hand still in the bush. So I would like to see like mid-year, how are we looking with this? How are we looking on our projections? Like I want it on the calendar for like July, June, July. How are we looking? How does this look? I want a work session that tells us based on these projections and this blood, sweat and tears that we're doing over this, how do we look? Are we gonna be in the hole again for 2027? Because I don't wanna have this discussion next November.
I'm still not on, like, no one sold me, none of these good plans and good ideas have sold me on not hiring those two positions, like,
Well,
I'm
my
100%
question is like,
hardcore on those.
Oh, no, I'm,
Think
I,
that-
after this, do you think we could reallocate
Yes.
this to fill those two
Yes,
positions?
with council's direction,
Okay,
I think.
okay, so,
Thank you.
Reasonably do that, because again, if you look at the public works position, right now, 100% of that position is assigned to streets general fund. I think part of that position, and I'm sure Ed would, support this, and I can tell you from my own observation and being at some of these water breaks, I can tell you that it's all hands on deck. So I think, maybe not 50%, but part of that position. Part of Sadie's position, I think, could reasonably be assigned to parking.
And so many of these positions, you know,
I
I
think it's 40.
look at our police involvement, I look at Ed,
Yeah,
just working to get this parking lot over here paved
I
and
was gonna say,
striped.
And that one over there,
That, there,
and the one
there's
around
I mean, the
always.
amount of time that I work with Ed and other on dealing with parking movement management, I mean,
I think, yeah, there is quite a bit of reallocation. that
In your
can be
front
done.
office,
code
what-
enforcement, clearly could,
Of
part of
course.
that time
Yep.
is parking, so.
I mean-
Spends a lot of time making sure our parking works.
I would love somebody
Same
just
thing.
to do the chart on what part of the 100% of parking there is everybody doing. And that way, I mean, obviously Sadie's doing the most talking about it part and everybody else kind of doing the physical part. But break it out, let's get it on a chart, and that's just gonna be kind of
I
like the
think it would
forever
be
guy,
Very beneficial.
yeah.
but, okay. Can I move to, are we still here? Can I move to a different? I am really concerned about not having another police officer. And I'm also, I don't know if it was just a slap in, go ahead.
Well, we're saying that we will hire the.
We are gonna hire, okay.
I think what I'm hearing is, if I'm hearing direction from council, is to see, based on our discussion here, we've identified some positions that can reasonably, the cost allocation can reasonably be made to other funds to see if we can get both of those positions, filled. But I just want to, again, say that even if we do that, it's gonna take time to get
Oh,
those positions in place anyhow.
Right,
Yeah,
we have time
It's
though.
intended to our advantage.
Yep.
Yeah.
From a budget perspective, because we should underspend those lines if we do.
Right.
But I don't know why this is kicking me in the face more, probably because I read the letter from chief and then I read the letter from the officer who talked about how he hasn't resigned, but he was looking, he was checking it out. I think we have to do, and I hate saying this when we're in such a crunch, but I think we have to be, when we're looking at how we're going to start making our employees more competitive, we have to bump some of our, because here's where I have a challenge, and I heard this when I worked in Gilpin. Gilpin doesn't pay a lot, Gilpin County does not pay their police officers. Like Blackhawk pays their police officers
Yes,
a lot,
I agree.
because Blackhawk is a separate police organization. Gilpin makes a lot less.
Yeah.
We see the same thing here with us and Clear Creek. So how much did we spend educating and training the officer who just took all that knowledge to Clear Creek? Like, we're not getting that back. So that says to me, when we're looking at cost of living increases and raises, we have to start with the one that where most of our folks are getting poached. And I don't like giving any one particular department any kind of importance, but where are we losing most of our folks? Like, we have to start there. And that, for me, that is a goal for next year, is everybody gets a raise. Everybody becomes more competitive as far as CML.
I really think with everything that's going on next year, and it's all hitting at the same time. I mean, Sadie has a real marketing budget and we have a full-time marketing person. We've got a 12.5% increase in this city's population. And I'd like to think they moved here for the same reason that we did. They think it's a cool town. And most of us spend some money here in the city. It isn't just about online sales tax, which really helps us with 119 more homes with the FedEx person stopping at. But, you know, I think that it's gonna help with sales tax. And as was pointed out, you know, it's gonna be more responsibility for our police department. I think it's all the more reason to pay better and fill that position. But I really think we're gonna have the tools next year based on additional parking. The gondola is gonna be a really nice shot in the arm. And then, you know, we've had a couple things open up this year, I think, that have made improvements to the city. I think I see people coming from all over to the new skateboard park and certainly the bike park. So now it's more an East End businesses will tell you that, in fact, we heard today, some of them have never done this well. But the sales tax is going to give us the ability to pay competitively. And I think all of us want to be at least in the middle of the CML salary range, because if we're in the middle, then we're being competitive. And I think next year we're going to have the ability to do that.
I was gonna say something that, Doug was talking to one of his coworkers the other day. My husband is Doug, and, his coworker lives in Arvada. And Doug, Doug was like, yeah, he was like, where do you guys live? And Doug's like, well, we live in Idaho Springs, and his coworker that has lived in Arvada for many years goes, oh, your town is way cooler than our town. Doug was like, that is the first time. That's what he said.
So on the subject, chief, you have 8 officers, right?
8 and I'm 9. Yes.
You're 9, right?
Right.
Well, rough math, if you do FPPA math, $10,000 an officer plus the 35%, which is about what it costs for benefits with FPP at 11%, is $108,000. That's kind of the numbers we're talking about. If we put numbers to this discussion.
For what we need next year to give them a bump that makes it more,
Right.
Makes it
Competitive.
more competitive.
Because it's.
or at least more desirable.
Because it
Competitive might be able
costs
to
us
use
more money per dollar per bump for the police department than does anybody else because of FPPA, which is fine. But we also have to remember and it's in here, it's actually incorrect in the thing, the police officers that are paying, that have FPPA, they have a required contribution that comes out of their check every time.
Yes, they do.
Nobody else does. What was it, like 12? I wanna say
That was
it's 12%,
11%.
it was 10.5 this year, I think it's like 12%, because I don't know, I pay it too, but. But I think we have to remember that too, that so when we're talking about a raise for the police department, it's not like, woo, I get $10,000 extra, this is best, this is
don't.
awesome. I don't, because I lose a percentage of that to my FPPA contribution. So it's not across the board, and that's unique to that organization.
Right.
So when we're talking about this stuff, retaining officers, we need to look at that's the big picture. That's why it's 35% for your employee costs on top of, 35 cents per dollar given, basically, is because of the benefit package is different, and we need to look at them when we do this, but it's 108. That's, we're not talking like $300,000 increase. We're talking.
That's what we need
we're
next
talking
year to
pennies.
get our guys.
And we are losing people to sheriff's office, but the sheriff's office does not have FPPA. Let's make sure that's clear and well understood with the group. The voters said they could pursue it. That doesn't mean anything.
They didn't.
Nothing's
They have to
happening.
fund it.
Right.
And their FPPA is gonna be the social security based one, which is 8 and 8, which is not the defined benefit these guys get, so it's actually a lesser benefit. But they don't have it. So they're losing people for 90. Doesn't mean we have to.
But they don't have the
doesn't mean we have to
long-term
do 90 and 90.
It's not the
retain
same.
people. It means we have to pay them well enough and then make sure the retirement is good enough that it's a reasonable equivalent.
Yes.
And that's kind of our obligation at this point
So
to look at options to make this happen.
108 for the police department, and that's at 9 officers, so we're counting.
Well, that's 8 officers. That's,
8
that's
officers plus
assuming
chief.
that, we negotiate this chief's, are you, do we do contract like this for both of you? We didn't, okay. That's separate. That's everybody below him saying this is if we bump them all to the equal amount, this is what it costs to do so from a budget perspective.
What does that look like for the rest of our employees? Like if we bump the rest of our employees,
Well, and that's.
But he's saying
that's
it's
what I don't
totally
wanna do.
different.
I think, not to pick on the rest of our employees, but this drives me completely insane. We have police officers that we ask them to do certain things every day that may or may not result in them coming home, right? We pay them accordingly, we do FPPA, we do all this other stuff. And then we had the same discussion, the county did the same thing. Well, the maintenance worker that plows snow might have the same risk. How? So it's not apples to
Oh, no,
apples. So I
because the
think
reindeer's
this
done,
conversation
no matter
at this
what.
level is, if we're giving all our other employees 2.1%, we're meeting CPI. That's great. But we're worried about it's not awesome, but I went 2 years without a raise in one position, so I have no sympathy. Sorry. Downturns are downturns, it's value, but if we're worried about losing officers, we're losing institutions of knowledge, we're worried about working, overtime costs us more money than it does replacing a position.
And it's dangerous.
Like 2 to 1. It is dangerous, and we worry about longer shifts, and we worry about fatigue and all this stuff, which is ridiculous to me. Let's figure how we fix our police problem. I don't think our public workers are underpaid. I don't. I know Bob's retiring, which is awesome. He's reached the point he's retiring. We're not losing a 30-year employee that brings in, you're not 30 years, we're losing what, 10, 11-year employee? It's different.
Well,
But I think for this
also
conversation
good
though, is how do we fix our
bring in younger
current
people and not
police issue
traditionally.
to retain the officers, to recruit new officers, and make sure that's whole. If that's our priority, one of our biggest priorities of the city, let's focus on that while maintaining benefits for our current public works employees and staff. Right, we put those back into the budget, so we're not going, hey, you're not getting a raise and we're taking more money out of your check. We fix that. So let's put that aside. So we fix that for 2026.
okay.
Let's see if there's a way to fix our issue with how we pay our officers. So we have better retention. We kind of win the battle a little bit for this.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2027, we can look at where we're at and where we need to go for 27 and 28 for all the employees. Because hopefully it's a better picture in 27.
I just want to inject why the police are really the biggest issue here, even amongst other employees. Because a lot of folks, when you look at the breakdown, I mean, just the brutal truth is, we don't have a problem in like water and wastewater. Unintended, we're flush with dough in those accounts, right?
Yep.
So it wouldn't, especially with 12% more
People.
folks coming in, right? those are at 0.9, so it'll be like a 10.5, 11% increase in people to share the water and sewer bills. So we're gonna be in good shape with those employees. The bulk of it is police. I'm just going out on a limb here and guessing that total to fix it for everybody, I think is under 2. So with everything that's coming on in 2026, I'm not being cocky. I really think we fix this with what's going on.
Then the question is, can we find that 108,000 or whatever it is in some of the things that we're looking at now?
I think we can, but I'm not gonna, I didn't go that in depth with it. It's a
I mean,
little bit of math.
108,000-ish.
How about I have a goal date, like Andy and Chief were saying,
And I think the goal is if we're shooting for 108 and we get 101,
we're good.
that's still effort in the right direction.
Right.
I don't know, yes, I'll put one on the spot in the back corner. What thoughts? You live this every day, man.
Yeah, and by the way, thanks for coming out tonight.
Yeah, and you're giving up your time to hang out with us. I'm not sure why, but
I think we're taking this into consideration. It's, I mean, as one of the officers, I do have some concerns and
Sure.
I mean, it seems like for what we're earning, the game has gone up considerably this year. I've already been 4 times. I wondered if I was going home.
Yeah.
So.
that's kind of my point is we shoot for a goal. Hopefully we can make it. If we can't make it, at least we get it closer to, because right now we aren't even close.
So what
we
I
work
was,
towards it.
what I was trying to say is, like, with us, the amount of time it's gonna take to hire somebody for chief and the rest of the staff, get them
Also
trained.
helps the overall that
It does,
budget,
it does help, saves us a little bit of money pushing us near our goal. Like in June, if we reevaluated at that point in time, in the middle of the year, we could say, hey, realistically, this is looking really good. We forecast by the end of the year, this is how much we're gonna have. We could actually get the jump in June. What I'm trying to give the guys and the gals is like, hey, this is when we're gonna make a decision going forward, and maybe it's only halfway there. Would that be something that would be appropriate?
Andy?
And then maybe go all the way there at the end of the year.
From the
Maybe
budget
like 2
perspective,
big-
I think it causes a little bit of issue, doesn't it?
Does it?
Cause
Because
we're gonna approve,
gotcha.
we're gonna approve the
No, we have to do a budget.
2026.
It's
I
better to
gotcha.
appropriate the funds and then shoot for it.
So one thing
Okay,
I think we could do, and Chief, in our budget discussions brought this up, is his concern is the entry pay. And also, if you bump the entry pay up, and we'll be looking to hire a new officer and maybe another one, but at least one that we know of. Raising the entering pay, and then of course, you would need to adjust a number of the other employees up a little bit when you raise the entering pay to have internal equity. So I don't think that would be a huge cost. We could take a look at that if that's council's direction. We could also take a look at that and making some interim adjustments, at least with trying to address at least part of what Chief is asking, is bringing up the minimum base pay and then making some internal equity adjustments. It's not, that would not be excessive. And I think with some of these cost allocation adjustments we've talked about, I think we might be able to get there. I can certainly take a look at that. So to make us a little more competitive, it's not going to get us where we want to be, but I think that's a reasonable
Do that
step.
in this budget, you're saying?
While we're looking at these other cost
Yeah,
allocations
yeah,
we're talking
and
about, I
see
mean, I
what
think
goes in.
what I'm hearing is the number one objective is to see through some additional cost allocations if we can go ahead and move forward with filling these 2 positions that are going vacant.
That's
Number one. Number 2, I'd say let's take a look at police. Because that's probably our biggest vulnerability, and see if we can make some interim adjustments there in this year's budget. And then we do the assessment as we go into the new year. If that makes sense, I think that's attainable with.
Well, and taking some of the burden off of the general fund, because the general fund takes a big beating.
Well, it does, but if.
but we've
well, we're
increased
talking
the
about general
usage of
fund,
it.
I'm gonna throw the grenade in the room, but our property
Bring it.
taxes are, what, 6 mils? It's 200, it's less than $300,000 a year we generate in the city in property tax, which probably is it's good that we can rely on sales tax 100% of the time. My property taxes are $2,200. My employees at equivalent house is $3,500. Right, so we talk.
$200 right here.
We talk about this, so that there's, as we look at funding towards the city, I hate to say that property tax might be something we need to at least have a discussion on moving forward. in
And
some-
again, that
some way,
hasn't
shape,
gone
or
up in
form.
years.
And it hasn't, and that's good, it's been fortunate, right?
It's gonna be a,
I'm thinking this one
It's
is
just
a,
an interesting conversation that probably needs to be had, whether we like it or don't like
you're
it.
just trying to have the grenade tossed right back at you.
I can leave office here in 2 years and not run again and be fine.
me too.
But I think it's, if we're talking about funding, and we're talking about long-term longevity of the city and all the stuff we're trying to do, and there's some amazing stuff going on. It needs to be go beyond
Conversation.
sales tax for once in our lives. And not like, well, we can raise sales tax. Well, how about we look at other alternatives besides raising sales tax? Because I think we've already tapped that to probably about 0.5% more than we should have
Mhm.
in reality. And start looking at alternative funding and how what that looks from all of our
Jeremy,
sources.
you seem to be very budget savvy. Is there a way to do that and still protect the people that are in a lower income bracket or whose homes?
Well, there's a senior exemption, they get, at 65 and over, they get money off the a certain percentage of the property taxes, the first 200,000, I think it says value. Right. There are programs out there that we can utilize, and I think they're underutilized. I've talked to people lately and they had no idea the programs exist. I'm like, you should look it up and pursue it, and they're doing it, and it's unfortunate that people don't know it's out there.
What about, I know that we can't invent the wheel here, but I've always thought that like, once you retire, whatever your retirement date was, whatever your property tax was on that date should stay the same for the rest of your duration in the house.
I wish it was that way.
I
That would be
that'd be
awesome.
nice, I know.
That would be awesome. It's not. So, but that's part of this discussion is, if we're talking about relieving the general fund, all the fire protection in this town has always been paid for by the general fund,
Mhm.
right? We're going back to 1880. General fund paid for whatever fire protection is done. We've never had a fire tax. Neither is Georgetown, neither is Empire, Silverton has one. If we're talking about adjusting how we're funded, that's another avenue,
Mhm.
because the unincorporated portion pays a mill. And we funded that, which is great, all through general fund. We've
Yeah.
never had a mill that pays for that. We've never had a mill that pays a percentage of the police department cost. It's always been, let's hope for sales tax, let's hope for a good business year, so we can afford to pay for public services. So I
Does that
think
have to
this
get
is all
approved by
that
the voters?
conversation. It would have to get approved by the voters, but this is the conversation that we probably need to start having, diversify our funding
Mhm.
as a town.
Well, I think
This
if
is gonna
you're,
have to be a several year conversation, because if you talk to people about property taxes, people are still really angry
Yes, they are.
about the county jump. And they're
Oh, yeah.
mad about the Idaho Springs, that we have the highest taxes and
Well,
we are recommending.
let's be honest, so we have this discussion, let's be honest. People are gonna be really angry, but Henderson's gonna shut down.
Yep.
So if you're angry now, you're gonna be really, really angry, because all those services that we rely on aren't gonna be funded in 2036. So we can pretend we have a way out of this crap. Or we can say, you know what, we should start having this discussion now
gradual.
and figure it out.
Mhm.
And it's gonna cost us all more money if we wanna maintain the services we currently experience. So we need to start having the discussion and tear the Band-Aid off, I'm sorry.
Well, no, I
That's
think it
the
needs to be a
reality of what
multi-year
we're at.
discussion. I don't think this is like, we can't.
Well, I don't think it's a single year discussion,
No, it
but this is
can't
a
be.
discussion that over the next 5 years needs to occur.
That I agree
And
with.
we need to incrementally work towards the goal, because when Henderson shuts down, which is going to happen, whether we like it or don't like it, that's gonna have an adverse effect on everybody in the county. So we need to figure this out. I'd rather see us be ahead of that than what's currently going on that direction.
Mhm.
It's kind of interesting. Because Lake County shut down in 1982. Lake County now has a whole different outlook on how they manage Freeport money that they wish they had in 1983. So let's not be Lake County, and let's start having these discussions that are really hard on
No,
if we want to maintain our services.
I actually have actively said that. I say it to the library often. Because I say, this is, you're in Forever Land right now, but Forever Land is coming to an end. And the only way that this county is gonna maintain is also, property taxes are going to have to go up, and it's gonna be very, very, very hard on some people. And it's gonna feel to them like we're chasing them out of town. And the only way that we could validate it is, I think the way you brought it up is, this is for your fire, this is for your police. And this is what we've been covering.
Your base
Through
services
sales
and
tax
your
for
important
years.
Need to be funded by, have a funding mechanism.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not always sales tax.
It can't be, I mean,
Well,
we're,
it can't be, I don't
obviously, we're
think
tapped
it
out.
can be either.
Yeah,
So I think this is kind of the starting point for this budget. And Floyd Hill did it to us, which we knew it was gonna be interesting, and it has been.
yeah.
We're not down, what, 17%, if you feel that way, on sales tax?
Over 20%.
They went over
That's
20,
shocking,
that's
yeah.
the numbers, but
Georgetown.
that could happen to us tomorrow,
West.
just as quickly as it happened to them, so we need to start having these discussions.
Mhm.
We need to support our businesses, yeah, the gondola is great, the mountain biking has been great. We need to actively support that kind of stuff, we need to change our funding for our economy. Which is gonna require more recreation and more other things that we can tap into, which is, again, foreign to people, they don't wanna do it. We've always been this way for 150 years, great, awesome. Doesn't work anymore, so
We
we start
sent
having
dirt
these
roads, too.
discussions. Well, yeah, Georgetown still does, all right.
And there was not porta potties, but outhouses in your backyard, so.
So I think
Had
this
that
is an opportunity for all of us to start having this discussion within this room.
Out
Where
loud.
we want the city to be in 5 years and 10 years, and how we want it to be funded.
Out loud.
Out loud, yeah, I've
Out
been
loud.
saying this out loud for 3 years and I haven't been beat up yet. It's been close.
I do it if I'm running out the door.
But I just think it's time to start having these discussions.
Sales tax, the property tax going up.
Any, what else, did you have?
I think I have my direction unless there's any other thoughts, but I think we can make some additional adjustments here.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Bring this home. We are getting down to the wire here, I will mention the
Do
council.
we need to, do we need to consider and be prepared for if we need to file for an extension? Can we file for an extension
No.
with our budget?
No, we have to have it
So it would have
adopted.
been good to actually do this maybe a month ago.
We're under the gun, yeah.
I think we can do that and,
I think we can get it done.
and just to kind of tag on for public knowledge. The city contributes, the contribution in 2026 to fire protection pays for 63% of the staffing in town. That's significant. Just gonna want that number out there. We talked this morning. I funded the math on the next year is 63% of the base staffing for the station.
I think that would actually be,
Is funded right now by the general.
if you're just joking, or if you're actually really serious, is laying it out on paper and saying, this is how much of our
Totally
general
serious about
fund goes to
laying it out on
police.
paper and having
This
a
is how much
discussion.
our property taxes go to fire. So that people can really see it. This is what the city truly has been doing through sales tax, not through your property
Yes,
taxes.
we are in a much better position, with fire protection. Funding is why we have.
Chuck, could I make a comment about the trails?
Yeah.
I know I'm just watching the trail system development. I just want people to know that Team Argo would entirely be in support of developing the hiking trails.
Oh my God.
Better.
Yes.
We love, I continually correct people that it's not a bike park.
It is not a bike park.
It is a hiking and it's a
It's a
park.
mountain park.
It's a mountain park, so we just internally have been saying we need to be serving the hiking
So-
community, as was always the intent. I didn't wanna.
No,
get
I'm,
people off the rails.
I'm sure you've heard me say that out loud, or somebody's mentioned that too. It has been a big concern of
I've
mine.
said it forever, Kate.
Yeah, it's
So-
actually kind of just,
I actually talked with Dylan about this, he's not here, but I'm not throwing him under the bus, like, we talked about, I am unwilling to do any more bike trails, until we get 3 hiking trails. I'm gonna put that out there, because what I'm hearing from residents is, they're willing to put up with the parking and the biking and all that, but how many of our folks, a variety of ages, it's multi-generational, are used to hiking up there, and now they can't hike anymore. I want dedicated hiking trails, but I also talked to Dylan, and Jeremy was around for this conversation. That we do, when you talk about bringing in more people, we could actually do a ring of a trail all the way around Idaho Springs. North going west, crossing over 70, and then east on the south side, going east. Like, there is a way to do that. We talked about this in detail. And we put so much effort and money into our biking aspect. what I'm hearing from residents is we have to do our hiking.
It was never meant to be just a bike.
Well,
It
and
was always
to,
meant to
and to
be
clarify,
Virginia
like,
Canyon Mountain Park.
most of it is about education. So we already have designated hiking
They share with the
trails.
bike though, a lot of them share with the bike.
And there are a significant amount that are hike only,
Not enough.
and we're working on developing that more. However, most of it is about education. And again, when I say that my job isn't about bringing people in, it's also about making sure that we're talking and educating people. And we have both a loop that you can already do within Idaho Springs, which while some of it is public-private, which are very clearly that way already, we do have designated hiking trails within the mountain park. It's just about education on the best way to use them. And once the construction process is done, that navigation will become significantly easier. Right now, it's not as super easy because of the way the construction process.
I think
currently is.
redoing the comp plan that we started on the mountain park back in 2016, 2017, reviewing that and its intent.
Yeah.
Would be helpful as a partner with the city for what we're looking at.
I know they're building 2 more walking trails right now.
Correct.
But that was my panic attack with the entry being off of Virginia Canyon. If that's not just uphill only, that's.
It will
for the
be,
winter.
it will, for the winter, the hiking trails become, because of the seasonal park closure, the winter activation of
Trails are closed,
hiking.
period.
For hiking, it's pretty much trails are closed, period, for hiking access. So those are just conversations to continue to have, while we're navigating seasonal closures and all of those things. I will say that we do have the eyes of the state from a tourism and grant money foundation. They're looking at us very delightfully. And there's a lot of development that we could look at that will help in the hiking aspect of our recreational access.
Yeah, because that's what I'm hearing from a lot of people that live here is that we could live with the bike aspect if we had more dedicated hiking. Because a lot of people did a lot of hiking, you know, and take their dogs and walk with their grandkids and whatever. And they don't feel they have that access anymore.
We've overbuilt the comp plan as far as biking.
Yes, we
trails.
have, yes, we
So
have.
it's now time to balance that.
Which I think that we're working on that, and I think the only problem we will have, at least for the next till March, is that while we're developing those hiking trails, even more than they won't be able to access them until March.
And it's beyond our control.
Yeah, we have no control
Yeah,
over
we
Colorado
have no
Parks and
control.
Wildlife, but once that, again, that's an educational thing, where, again, I'm reaching out to not just people who are visiting us. This is an educational standpoint to our residents and our community as well. So that's my job.
Do you feel you have enough to get, you know, more of a budget to us?
Yes.
We're looking at voting on this on December 8th. Do you?
What I'm gonna push for is trying to get to a revised budget at our next meeting.
And that's what I was gonna ask.
At
Can
work
we
session,
see?
I'd like you all to be able to see, it's not, I mean, most of the budget is done. I mean, it is done, but then you're asking for adjustments in certain areas here, which I think I can get done and get back to you by next week.
And that's what I was gonna ask, if we can see it.
So have it
December
one more time,
Like the.
make sure you all are comfortable with it, and then we'll move towards the final meeting.
8th. Okay.
Jeremy, you gonna be around next Monday? Because I was gonna see if I should tap you on the shoulder. Run the next Monday.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Run the budget meeting.
Take a rare Monday.
I've got no place to be.
I think,
I think the regular meeting will be pretty straightforward, looking at the agenda for the regular meeting. We weren't gonna have a work session necessarily next week. but I think we can,
right.
I think we can get this done.
I don't mind having a work
Yeah,
session
no
though,
issue with that.
it's addressed.
Again, budget season, we're here in the authority, so I've got no place to go. until-
I'm looking at you. And you have 4 parking spots. I'm having somebody come and pick up the red, we're donating it to disabled vets.
Oh, how nice.
Do you wanna-
I've donated 2 of my vehicles.
Do you want to donate all of the ones sitting in that parking spot?
Yeah,
Jump on board.
That would make my wife's day. I donated my last 2
This
to,
is a joke.
yeah, I donated my last 2 to Big Brothers and Big Sisters.
Oh, did you? We went to the Carousel of Happiness up in Ned. I gotta tell you right now, how close that thing came to burning down was extraordinary. Jeremy, you didn't go up to that? They said they dedicated one fire guy just to stand between the flames and the carousel.
You did a good job.
They did an amazing job. We took our kiddos, our grands. I'm just telling you, they're gonna have a tow truck with a lift. You can get those baby, Doug will chainsaw the aspens down to get the cars out now. We turn it into a car force. He could sell that property. I'm like, I'm trying to make deals for him, but you absolutely won't do it. 4 parking spots, guys.
Doesn't happen often.
Thank you very much. I'll count every single one of them.
What's that? Oh.
All extra.
Okay, hey, but
These are
wait,
Oh, sorry.
before we adjourn,
Park it, there, Missy.
I just wanna ask, is there anybody in the audience tonight that has something that they'd like to bring up? Feel free.
Man, this is a judgment-free safe zone.
Just as, we don't often have, new faces, so welcome, glad to have you. If there's anything you want to ask?
I'm here, and Chief said that it was water, and I was interested, and.
Good. Well, you're welcome
I'm
anytime.
office staff, so I'm not, I'm an
Yep.
officer.
Well, thank you for
So-
coming.
Yeah.
But I was gonna actually bring that up, Andy, office staff also, not only the ordinance officer, but I bet you they field many parking questions as well.
You all deal parking issues?
I will throw that money
More
anywhere.
calls, I know, right? Lots of parking money can go.
They always wanna ask, how do I pay my parking ticket? Do I come here?
You're answering those questions?
Yeah. And
I say
then have to
10%, I'm just throwing numbers out now.
decide If it's ours,
I don't care
or if
anymore.
it's the city, or if they're actually talking about Idaho Springs, Idaho,
Yep,
that happens.
No,
That's disturbing.
I believe that.
So, you
and,
know,
and then it's not over, because then they wanna get on wonder. Sometimes they'll come in person.
Oh, they.
No, that's exactly what you guys, it's very similar to the Idaho Springs thing is when Doug was working at the fondue. They would ask him many times a month, when do the deer turn into
Oh, come
elk?
on.
At what altitude?
His job was to perpetuate that to the best of his ability.
Hey, Bill, we gotta ask for the hydrophone.
Is there anyone else besides the parking? We don't know about that.
Big word.
Thank you very much, everybody.
We were told
Amazing.
deer, we chased an elk and
Get
sitting.
that done by Sunday, so.
I was
So-
really worried because I was like.
Seems appropriate.
not successful,
We
but
saw
no.